Yeah, I understand. I'm like almost a week late covering this topic, but I just wanted to talk about it after I got home from my 50-hour work week. So let's just jump into it. I will not be covering the entire TWAB because that just sounds like a dumb thing to do. I'll just read you the highlights, which is most of it. Big stuff. Big stuff. The main thing about this TWAB, and what makes it probably the most important one we've read in quite a bit, even though the last couple have been really important, is just the overwhelming changes to just the Void subclass, which I feel like has been a very underutilized subclass in the grand scheme of things like PvP and PvE. Most times you will only see Top Tree Nova Bomb, and that's about it. Maybe some Devour, but you don't really see that many Void anythings in PvE content. Same thing with PvP. Nova Warp getting neutered a long time ago, Night Stalker being generally ineffective, and Nova Bomb being Nova Bomb. Like, Void subclasses, nobody uses anything other than Nova Bomb. But we've got some changes that will hopefully, and I'm pretty confident that they will, basically change the entire way that we work with subclasses. General summary of what they try and accomplish with evolving the system is implementing more player choice in the system that they're calling Void 3.0. They're essentially doing exactly what we thought they were going to do, which was porting the light subclasses over to the stasis system, where you choose your fragments, you choose your aspects. It'll change how the subclass works. However, light subclasses will be gaining a little bit more variety and potentially more aspects and fragments than the stasis system, simply because they don't break the fucking game. Let's get on to what they have to say about Void 3.0. So their main design focuses with the Void 3.0 rework, which will be coming with the launch of Witch Queen, is three things. One, to preserve the strong existing power fantasies of the Void. For example, a lot of terms like Devour, Unstable, just the raw power of the Void is something that they want to preserve and expand on. Some key terms that they will be using in conjunction with the changes that they are making go as follows. And it's kind of akin to how Stasis uses things like Slow, Freeze, and Shatter. For Void, they're going for terms such as Suppression, Weaken, Volatile, and Void, Overshield, Invisibility, and Devour. And these are all aspects of the Void subclass that will become more important when this rework happens. These are all terms that we can see across the entire Void subclass. They are grabbing every single buff and basically cranking it up to 11 and allowing you to pick what kind of playstyle you're going for. If you're going for something like a ally buff build, you would probably have the ability to grant allies invisibility and void overshields, or you can do things like weaken builds where you can suppress and weaken enemies, or make them volatile and suppressed as well so that they're less lethal and you so are more lethal for good crowd control. They have a lot of potential with this new system, but thankfully for us, they've already given us quite a bit, like a genuine bit of information concerning what they're thinking about doing with these subclasses, like with supers and aspects and stuff like that. And we're gonna start off with the Hunter, which I find to be some of the more interesting changes. So I'm just going to read it straight off the TWAB. So they're changing the way the shadow shot works, specifically the Mobius quiver, which is the bottom tree, I believe, where you spam a bunch of arrows in a single supercast. So what they're going to be doing is, quote, fire 2 volleys of 3 void anchors in a cone, which seek out enemies and spawn void anchors on impact. Shadow shot makes tethered enemies volatile and deals increased damage to tethered targets. So instead of you spamming the button over and over and over and just flying away to the dreadnought, you can actually just fire it once. It'll fire in a cone shape, and the projectiles will seek out enemies and basically make them have a tsunami of pain, which is just my favorite. I like that a lot. And they state that a lot of the pain points of using Mobius Quiver is having to press the button multiple times and you just drifting away while you're trying to use your super, which more often than not you end up falling off a cliff. So it's also very nice. We've also got some information on the new aspect they're going to be adding called Stylish Executioner. I am so tired. Defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target grants invisibility and true sight. For those who don't know what true sight is, it's essentially wall hacks. After performing a stylish execution, your next melee attack while invisible will weaken enemies. So this is essentially going to lead to an absolute chain of weakening enemies, defeating them, and then using that to continuously start this chain of suppressing an enemy, killing them, going invis, suppressing another enemy and weakening them, killing them, and just over and over and over. This could be potentially extremely powerful in things like Nightfalls, where champions are more and more common and a lot of them need to be killed as quickly as possible. This is a very interesting way of making the hunter more debuff oriented, because currently right now hunters in PvE specifically are just, if I'm being honest, they're just really bad. A lot of the playstyles do not mesh well with the content that we're given. For example, a lot of the subclasses like Arcstrider and Tether are pretty much useless in all scenarios and things like GM Nightfalls, just because Tether itself is not very useful, especially because you're mostly hanging back. You're not pushing forward, or you're not trying to ad clear as much as you are trying to DPS. That's why most of the time if you see a hunter, they're essentially using exclusively Blade Barrage or Solar subclasses, is because they deal very high burst damage. And that burst damage is what makes them good in the first place. Having debuffs and stuff like that is nice, but with the hunter, debuffs are so uncommon that it becomes a chore to even try and perform them. So with this aspect, it'll definitely shake up what they're able to do in the future, and I look forward to that. Sentinel Titans, you will be getting a decent amount. Overwatch is their aspect that they will be adding. No changes to the super, unfortunately. On the aspect, you will be casting a Void-empowered barricade to grant a Void overshield to yourself and nearby allies. The empowered barricade slowly regenerates the Void overshield of allies bunkering behind it. This is a very, very, very cool aspect. I like this quite a lot, because with Titans I'm always compelled to play as the protector of the group. I love running middle tree, I love guarding my teammates and allowing them to build up their super energy while I guard. So having something that plays into that protector role and gives Rally Barricade another reason to exist in the game is always nice. I can already see this being incredibly useful in GMs where you have to hold down a very narrow corridor or just an area with high suppression fire from a shit ton of ads. So this will be incredibly nice, especially for people that just aren't able to live as good. Titans, you will also be getting a new melee, which will basically just be the shield toss from your super, except every hit you get will give you a small chunk of Void overshield. This is a very welcome change. Titans have a problem with their playstyles being mainly melee focused, where you have to get into the fight very close and personal, and in a lot of content that's more often than not just going to get you killed. So having a projectile that not only supports your survival, but can also be used to dispatch enemies at range is very nice. I don't see them replacing the entirety of the melee ability in general, like the protective barrier. I feel like this will be an extra selectable one, which is nice because in Stasis we don't have selectable melees. So I hope that they don't completely throw out protective barrier. Void walkers, you warlocks are just so spoiled nowadays, aren't you? Dang. We have a projectile melee ability for void walkers akin to your top tree dawn blades. You will be launching a tracking unstable ball of void energy that detonates when it nears an enemy. pushing away targets from the blast and making them volatile. Think of the middle tree melee ability for Arc. Throwing a melee as a Chaos Reach will create like this little projectile that will also explode when things get too close. So it'll basically be that, just granting a volatile debuff. And this is mostly designed to be like an anti-dive tool, how they put it, to push enemies out of cover. I can see this being very useful in PvP sometimes, very occasionally. Not much in PvE. It depends on how wide the explosion is and how wide the effect of the volatility can be. I'm willing to give it a chance. I just don't see how useful it's going to be. Because most times, if you're going to be using a melee, you're probably going to be up in their face anyway. Like, the projectile melees don't typically go that far unless we're talking fucking top tree Dawnblade levels of range. Aspect, Child of the Old Gods. Cast your Rift to summon a sentient black hole which will hover at your side waiting for a target. It will launch itself at enemies and then will begin siphoning their energy and weakening them, refunding their life force back to you as either grenade and melee energy if you are using Healing Rift, or health if you are using Empowering Rift. Defeating enemies who are being siphoned by the quote-unquote child, didn't know I was a parent now, will refund some of your energy for your Rift. Unique. I like it. I do enjoy the companion buffs in the game, akin to Arc Souls and the No Time to Explain exotic perk and stuff like that. So I like that a lot. And it also gives you kind of a passive ability regen in a way, or makes it more rewarding depending on which one you're using to be more aggressive in playstyles. Because I can imagine this will have a very tiny range, but it gives those aggressive playstyles more viability in terms of ability usage. Rifts are just kind of hard to utilize if you're an aggressive player because they require you to be stationary. You're not allowed to run and gun with a Rift, so this definitely makes it more viable for an aggressive playstyle, which works perfectly with the Void subclass. I know I rambled on for quite a bit. This audio recording is coming up on 16 minutes now, which is quite a chunkster. I apologize if I ranted on for too long. It is 5:44 in the morning and I got home from work like an hour ago. So anyways, that's the big changes to Void. What do you think? Let me know down below, because I'm genuinely kind of excited. I'm hoping that they don't change too much with what we have already. I'm hoping that we actually keep a lot of the stuff that we already have, but if we don't, we don't, and we'll see how that works. So, anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Please feel free to leave a like and or dislike if you feel so inclined to do so, and if you want to keep up to date with the stuff that I am posting, whenever I decide to do so, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell right next to it to be notified when I do inevitably post. But anyways, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see all of you wonderful people later.